President John F. Kennedy summons his closest advisors for an emergency meeting.
These missile sites in Cuba pose an imminent threat. We need to consider all options, including a preemptive strike.
U-2 spy planes exposed Soviet nuclear missile sites and airfields in Cuba. Once operational, these missiles could reach most of the United States within minutes. In addition to the missile threat, thousands of Soviet troops, tanks, and artillery were deployed to repel any U.S. invasion. Inside XCOM, debate is fierce. The Joint Chiefs demand immediate airstrikes and an invasion. Plans to seize Cuba had existed for nearly a year. Defense Secretary McNamara warns that no one knows the exact locations of all missiles. An invasion could take 7 to 9 days, allowing the Soviets time to strike back. Kennedy initially favored airstrikes, but unlike most advisors, he also sought a peaceful solution.
An airstrike seems like our strongest option here.
I agree. An invasion might be too risky.
Meanwhile, U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, Adlai Stevenson, urged diplomacy. He proposed trading American missiles in Turkey for Soviet withdrawal from Cuba. His warning was clear. A U.S. invasion could provoke Moscow to retaliate in West Berlin or Turkey. If West Berlin fell, the U.S. risked losing Allied support. Most advisors dismissed his idea. Kennedy listened. Historian Martin J. Sherwin notes in Gambling with Armageddon that Stevenson's intervention was crucial. Stevenson insisted that the crisis be taken to the United Nations, shifting the debate from military action to diplomacy. For a week, Kennedy hesitated, balancing airstrikes against a naval blockade. Except for the United Kingdom and West Germany, most NATO allies were left uninformed. On October 22nd, Kennedy spoke to the nation. Calm and resolute, he announced a quarantine, a naval blockade of Cuba to halt further Soviet shipments. In the Caribbean, the U.S. Navy had nearly 90 ships immediately available for action. At the blockade line, 24 warships formed the forward line, poised to intercept Soviet vessels. As they moved into position, the world braced for war. In Moscow, Premier Nikita Khrushchev condemned the blockade as illegal. Privately, he was unsettled. His gamble, covertly installing nuclear missiles in Cuba to deter a U.S. invasion, was collapsing. On October 25th, Adlai Stevenson confronted the Soviets at the United Nations with photographic proof of the missile sites. As world opinion supported the U.S., most UN members, including the Latin American bloc, backed the demand for a missile withdrawal. Secretary General U Thant mediated talks between Washington and Moscow.
In the tense autumn of 1962, the world stood on the brink of nuclear war.
October 27th, the Cold War's most dangerous day. That morning, a U-2 spy plane was shot down over Cuba by a Soviet surface-to-air missile, killing the pilot. Military commanders demanded immediate retaliation, but Kennedy authorized only limited strikes, refusing a full-scale attack. Inside XCOM, frustration grew. War felt imminent. Later on October 27th, near the blockade line, U.S. destroyers tracked 4 Soviet submarines for 2 days. The USS Beale and the USS Coney dropped a series of depth-charge grenades near the Soviet submarine B-59. These were meant as signals, both to intimidate and force it to come to the surface.
Patrol area
For the crew
designated.
inside,
Report any
the
contacts
blasts felt
immediately.
like real attacks. Overhead, carrier-based aircraft fired warning bursts into the sea. One destroyer locked its guns onto submarine B-59. Inside B-59, conditions were desperate. Unbearable heat, little oxygen, and no contact with Moscow. The leaving war had started. The captain ordered a nuclear torpedo prepared for launch. One detonation could have destroyed the American ships and triggered nuclear war. One officer, Vasily Arkhipov, resisted. He argued the Americans were signaling, not attacking, and convinced the captain to hold back. Disaster was narrowly averted as the submarine surfaced. Unknowingly, the world avoided nuclear catastrophe. A peace deal followed. The Soviet Union agreed to withdraw its missiles from Cuba under UN inspection. In return, the United States committed never to invade Cuba. Secretly, Kennedy also agreed to remove American Jupiter missiles from Turkey. Although Khrushchev could have cited the U.S. withdrawal from Turkey, he kept it secret to improve relations with Washington. In the end, the world stepped back from the brink of nuclear war.